Thank you for staying here on the AM show with me, Bernice Abubedulansa. I have my papers here, the publisher, the Daily Statesman, Daily Guide, the Custodian, the Finder, and the Daily Graphic. An obvious headline is the one on the Kumawu by-elections. NPP's Annim wins Kumawu. That's the biggest one, captured on all the front pages this morning. And I've got political scientist, director of Center for European Studies, Dr. Asah-Asante, to help me digest the headlines this morning. Good morning to you, Doc, and thank you so much for agreeing to join me this morning. So the NPP has won Kumawu, and for many, it's not a surprise because yesterday when we did the analysis here with my colleagues, that constituency is the stronghold of the party. And over the years, they have shown their dominance and proven their dominance. Many were expecting that Kwekudria, who contested in the 2020 elections, would have given Mr. Annim some kind of competition because of his performance during the 2020 elections. Well, it appeared that he was no match for him when it came to the final day and the votes that were counted. What is your impression of the results? Did you expect it? Especially the margins. There are those who also say that, oh, we expected a win for the NPP, but not this kind of massive win. Kindly unmute your device for me, Doc.
Yeah. Is it better now?
Yes, please, I can hear you.
Yeah. It's not new when you are talking about by-election, especially in a stronghold of a party. There is always a massive win. And then remember that by-elections, there is very little advertisement and campaign and the rest of them. Votes are based on party tradition, party ideology, and the rest of them. That is what we call in political science tactical voting, where sometimes even the candidates cannot be that much important to the people, but except that they want to vote for their party to retain power. So all these things were at play at the last election, and that explains the results. The NDC went in as an underdog from day one because they knew that that was a stronghold of the NPP, but that they wanted to also prove a point, but that didn't work. So all odds were against the NDC, and there is no way that they would have won the day. So what we saw is a true reflection of a stronghold, and that is prepared to maintain a seat at all times.
Doc, so there's the issue of Kwekudria, who contested in the 2020 elections, defected from the NPP, stood as an independent candidate, and did so well against the late Philip Baswa. And some were expecting that he would, give Mr. Annim a run for his money. Could the issue here be one of personality and the candidate? Because obviously voter turnout is an issue, we know that. But Mr. Dia seemed to perform so poorly against the statistics, against the projection even of some analysts. Would you say that it is a thing of the personality of Mr. Annim as compared to the late Philip Baswa? Or once again, it is merely an issue of the party in power, or the party that has the stronghold over that constituency still maintaining its dominance?
Yeah, the party one is that the party maintains its dominance. And one thing that parties do is that when you are a member and you go as an independent, they find ways of punishing you. If they don't get you for the first time, second time, they'll whip you to line. And that's exactly what they've done. Because once you go out, you are going to divide their front and all that. So they marshal forces and then campaign in such a manner that you'll be seen as nuisance to the party. And once it's a stronghold, you will never be spared. They will punish you for that. So that is exactly what we saw. But we can also discount the fact that the personality is also a factor. And that, yes, people thought that, yes, this candidate was more, appealing to them. He has experience. They have a lot of canons that they use to gauge those candidates, for which reason they decide to voted massively for him. But the party dominance is a critical factor, and that Another factor that also was very apt in this business was the fact that the numbers in Parliament, NPP could not, lose this seat, because once you lose, it's going to change the dynamics in Parliament and it can create all manner of problems for the party. The party, that's why you saw all the big wigs move to that place to make sure that they maintain the seat, and that is it.
Absolutely, Doc. And in his victory speech, Annim extended this victory, or said this victory for him and the NPP is a signal of what will happen in 2024. For him, this is a signal that they can indeed break the eight. It's almost as if it is an endorsement of the party and its performance, or of the appreciation, as he puts it, of the people of Kumawu for the development in the area. Would you say that is quite a simplistic extension of what has happened in Kumawu to the upcoming general elections in 2024, or it indeed could be a signal?
It's not a signal. It is what you said, very simplistic analysis, that one constituency, a constituency which is your stronghold anyway, that you've retained your seat, for which reason you want to conclude that the whole country, that is how the voting pattern will be. That is oversimplification of the issue. There are more factors that will sway voters to one party or another. It's just a matter of time. He should just relax and wait and see the 2024 election. It's going to be super interesting. And that some of these considerations, he will realize that they will fizzle out in no time. They will not be part of the consideration why people will vote one way or the other.
Right, talking about the 2024 elections, there's a story captured on the front page of the Ghanaian publisher. Richard Anani shoots down Edru Miso. And also on the front page of the Custodian, it's Baumia's turn too. And this is in reaction to the popular expression of many supporters of Mr. Alan Tremartin that it is his turn now to be flag bearer of the party. You may recall what happened when he contested in the earlier primaries to be presidential candidate of the party, and we are told about how he had to step back for President Akufo-Addo. And so for many of his sympathizers, the argument is, it is his turn now, give him a chance, wouldn't you? But Richard Anani thinks otherwise. He said, it is also Baumia's turn. How do you appreciate or analyze the dynamics of? It's almost as if it fails to be a democracy when you bring in the Edru Miso concept, where it's almost as if it is handed over to one person because it's their turn.
It's a very interesting situation we're experiencing now. The party members of the party keep on changing their position from time to time. At one point in time, they said the Edru Miso concept is alive, and that we have known it for a very long time. Nana Akufo-Addo and the rest of them. We had all that. And now, if that thing is anything to go by, then those who are arguing that it's a time of what Alan Tremartin are right in saying so, because they've seen a precedent in that regard. People are also looking at the current situation, and they believe that the vice president is his time to also go in for the position. All this thing will end when the NPP decide to go for the primaries. The party will decide who will actually be the flag bearer of the party. But all these things are part of the processes leading to the real show. It's going to, be a heated contest, and it's not only the Alan Baumia and all that. There are other big wigs within the party, such as Bache Jakon, such as Kumpreku, Kenny Japan, and all that. We are going to see a real tussle for the seat. So my prayer is that the environment should be an enabling one, where there is, and that the whole process will end peacefully. And whoever emerges winner, all of them will pledge their support and then canvass for him and all that. My caution is that in primaries, people are prepared to go at length and discredit candidates and all that. And when that person wins, then it becomes a problem doing a PR to save the image that they have dented and all that. They should be very careful about that and go about these things in a more civilized and a more, appropriate manner, so as to not to, throw out their destiny into the hands of their opponent that will dictate the pace for them in terms of our campaign messages and strategies. So we look forward to a very good contest, and at the end of the day, the people will speak within the party, and the party will listen.
Well, of the former Minister for Roads and Highways under the Kufuor administration, I'm still talking about Mr. Richard Anani. He thinks that this whole concept of Idrumiso is overrated. He thinks what matters most is your performance being visible enough and your performance speaking for itself. Now, do you trust delegates enough to focus on performance? Because sometimes when you read research work done into voter decision, what influences people's choice of one over another, some of the reasons are very interesting, Doc, and I'm sure that you've been doing this work for a very long time, and so you would know more of this than I may even know. And so do you trust the delegate enough, or the Ghanaian voter generally enough to make a decision based on solely performance? Is that our voting character?
It's not. It is not. There are a lot of things that influence voter choices. They look at economic conditions as part of the thing that they look to decide who will have the expertise, the right knowledge to address the problem. They also look at personality. Will this person appeal to the populace so as to win their mandate? They also look at factors such as what your track record, what have you done or have you achieved, for which reason you think the party should give you the nod. They also look at sometimes your baggage. If you have too much of a baggage that is against you, they don't want to incur the wrath of the opponent by bringing you to the fore so that you can be shut down at any time. So a lot of considerations, but for you to trust voters, I'm afraid, don't go near. You can die of heart attack. Just allow them to decide. But it is our hope and prayer that they look at the issues from a more, proper manner, proper in the sense that you look at the things that the person brings to bear. You look at his track record. You look at marketability of that individual, and you look at whether that party has, that individual has vision beyond his party or the rest of them. So it's a whole mix of factors that are considered. But for voters, they will vote anyway, and they will vote based on their conscience. Sometimes they want to even please the party by voting somebody who was an ardent supporter of the party, who even doesn't have what it takes to be a leader, but they say, well, this is the person we want. He's a true party boy, and the rest of them. So it's a difficult question, but the delegates will decide. If they decide wrongly, they will have their fingers bent. If they come out with somebody who is apt for the job, it will pay in terms of political dividends.
Right, and so just by way of information, the NPP is opening their presidential nominations on Friday. We know that some people have already announced campaigns, started work. We know of Alan Chamatin, we know of the former Agric Minister, Dr. Usefia Koto. There's also Cabinet Japan. I've seen a couple of billboards, and Vice President Dr. Baumia. So it will be quite a keenly contested one, like Doc has suggested, and so we will keep our eyes on the NPP's presidential primaries. Nominations open on Friday. They close on June 24, 2023. Stay with us, your election headquarters, as we bring you more on that. But Doc, away from partisan politics, yesterday 29 CSOs gathered. They had a concern. They want the president to sack the GNPC chairman, Freddie Blay. Now, here's the reason. It has to do with a certain deal with a company in South Africa. Let me bring you some details of that story. We played it earlier on our news, but just for people who are just joining the program. So the CSO said the two here referred to chairman of the GNPC, Freddie Blay, and Chief Executive Opoku Ahweneɛ-Danquah. They say the two have failed to give Ghana better deals between the GNPC and partners, and thereby disregarding significant revenue potential the GNPC holds for the state. Speaking at a press conference in Accra yesterday, the CSOs made reference to the GNPC's plan to sell a 50% stake in Jubilee Holdings Limited, which is a subsidiary of GNPC, to Petro SA in South Africa, disregarding the significant revenue potential it holds for the state. Coordinator for the Economic Governance Platform, Abdul Karim Mohammed, speaking on behalf of the CSOs at the press conference, said the continued presence of Mr. Blay and Mr. Danquah in the management of GNPC poses substantial risk to Ghana's interests in the Jubilee Holdings Limited. Once again, it reminds me of calls for the sack of the Finance Minister, Ken Ofori-Atta. You would expect that issues of disregarding the nation's interest in matters like this will be priority, especially to government. What is your understanding of what is happening now? Also, because we know that the Energy Minister, Matthew Opoku Prempeh, is also in agreement with this call, and they are all members of the governing party. How do you expect government to handle this, and what is your understanding of what's happening?
One, if you look at what is happening, it tells you that there is something basically wrong with the deal. Otherwise, you wouldn't have the sector minister backing the cause for the removal of the two gentlemen. Yes, because the minister has the interest of this country at heart, and that is why he's speaking the way he's speaking. If you look at the deal, to the extent that you want to let another group have more interest than Ghana, then it creates a problem. And this is not new. We have seen it where sometimes people draft contracts on behalf of the state and say get 2%, 3%, 5%. And I ask myself, those people who engage in that, what is it that is in store for them? Why do they undertake such exercises? And what do they hope the country want to achieve by that exercise? It's playing out here where you are seeing that there is something odd about this. I believe that government must look at it and then do the needful by saving Ghana's interest. And if by saving Ghana's interest is to kick away the two officers, why not? After all, Ghana interest is over and above all interest. Any other interest is subservient to that of the state. And that is what people like the CSOs, and then the minister is doing. I applaud them for that bold, decision. We'll continue to support them so that we get to the bottom of this. Remember that if you look at the IMF deal that we have entered into, it's driven towards the issue of raking in more money from whatever sources we can get, so as to make sure that we survive within this 3 years period. So any coin, any dollar, any CD really is of interest to us. So any attempt at scuttling some of these interests, groups like this will pop up and then challenge that. And then you will see the minister also supporting this. I urge the government to listen to the minister, listen to the CEOs, and then protect the interests of Ghana. It is in the interest of this government and the NPP to do the needful.
Doc, there's a story on the front page of the Daily Graphic that worries me a lot, and it's about criminals taking over the Pantang Hospital. This is a story we've brought, if my memory serves me right, as far back as 3 years ago. And it's a story written by McLean Kofi. And it reads, there seems to be no end in sight for illegalities, unruliness, and general insecurity on the premises of the Pantang Hospital in the Greater Accra region, the health facility, which accommodates nursing and midwifery training institutions, basic schools, and other staff facilities, has now become a safe haven for criminals and social misfits such as thieves, weed smokers, and squatters. On a daily basis, they tramp the 344-acre hospital land in their numbers to unleash mayhem on staff. You can find more details, especially on the position of the Municipal Assembly. They corroborate the Chief Executive's concerns in that story. But Doc, here again, you ask yourself so many questions about why there is so much indiscipline in the country. A facility like a hospital owns a certain parcel of land. And for 3 years or more, we are not able to secure the land, protect the land. There is a municipal assembly, there is law enforcing agencies, but we're still struggling with dealing with squatters, with criminals. And this is a place that caters for people with mental issues largely. And it is a very important facility in the country. You wonder sometimes why some of these things that appear to be well catered for, orderliness in different jurisdictions, appear to be such a big deal and a big problem for us here in Ghana.
The simple answer to your question is weak institutions. We have institutions just on paper. In practice, they don't exist. Because if institutions exist, a facility like this, there is always a group that protects it. There is law enforcement is carried to the highest level, and there is always a constant effort to maintain peace and security in that area. Once you see a breakdown of this, then it means institutions are broken down, pure and simple. This country, our problem is that we are quick to come out with institutions, and when I say institution, I mean the laws, the rules, regulations, procedures, norms, and the rest of them. We come out each point in time with all manner of institutions, but as to how we enforce them is a problem. Until something untoward happens, then you see we'll rush there, we'll go and justify why it happened and the rest of them. We are not proactive enough. Institutions do not work. But my worry is that you have people who draw salary based on this work that they need to do. And who supervises them? Nobody knows. Supervision is a problem. Institutions are down. And then we don't care a hoot about such facilities and all that. More so when you have people that we need to protect and support, people with mental issues, right? Look at even mental issues in this country. Have we taken it seriously in this country? We have not. So it is a manifestation of how we even deal with mental issues. Because if it's something that we believe is critical, the hospital will be given all the attention, and that security will be top-notch, and that will do the needful to maintain peace and stability in the area. Look at two important, health institutions, nursing and midwifery training institutions. We are housing all these people with a number of, facilities there, and yet we are not prepared to safeguard the place. It's unfortunate. It's unfortunate.
Very, very unfortunate. And I must thank the Daily Graphic. They've done very good work here. So for 3 months, they were monitoring activities there. And if you're somebody who knows or is familiar with the story, you know that a certain wall was erected. There were plans to continue walling and protecting the land. We understand that the wall has been broken down by persons suspected to be land guards. And they give you a history of the hospital, how it was started by Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, some bungalows. So you get a sense that this was supposed to be a place that will be well developed enough to house staff, students and all that. But this is where we are. And Doc, talking about mental health and we not taking mental health seriously reminds me of a certain video that has been making rounds on social media of a man and his wife. The man is said to be a former pastor and his wife as well. I don't know if you've seen that video, Doc. Have you seen it?
Maybe continue the narration. Maybe
so this man appears in some dreadlocks with some cowries, his wife as well. And there's also the sad aspect, what really got to me is their child they lost as a result of a certain change in their lifestyle. So you can see that the child was looking very malnourished, very lean. The woman had changed her diet. She was saying stuff that, Jesus doesn't exist and all that. And the reaction on social media clearly tells you that people do not even understand that this is possibly a mental health situation. And people cannot understand that it is possible for people to allude things to a certain spiritual element, but it could have its roots in a mental health issue. In fact, today is Schizophrenia Awareness Day, and it's a disorder that affects people's ability to think, feel, and behave clearly. So people hear voices, people claim to see things, and we're always quick to blame it on a spiritual cause, because many of us do not understand that these things, mental health issues, can present in that manner.
The problem is what you have said, and it has been with us for a very long time. I think the experts in that regard, they are doing their best, but we as a society must help them to lift up the game. We have to commit resource to the fight against mental illness. We need to strengthen the advocacy and education about mental illness, and then so as to demystify all the stories, the myths around the disease, so as to build a society that all of us can own, a society that we are in to protect one another, and a society that ensures that there's health for all. Until we do that, we'll continue to have such problems lingering on.
And so for you, Doc, I mean, I don't know what it is like in the university community where you are. Are there facilities for people who are struggling, people depressed? Because generally you get a sense that we also don't offer support. We are quick to dismiss people, you know, and say, oh, you're just being lazy, or you're just being emotional, because we don't understand. Do you have in your university community, even for lecturers as well, a certain support system for persons who are struggling mentally?
Yeah, the good news is about UG, University of Ghana, is that we have a counseling and placement department, okay, where people go there when they have problems, and then they organize workshop training and then orientation for student lecturers and all the rest that you can think of. And it's a place that is easily accessible, and then they support us through thick and thin. It's a center that is worth commenting on. They've done so well and continue to do well for students and all that. When I was an undergraduate student, there were issues about some of our colleagues having mental challenges. The council came to their rescue, supported them and all that. The university does that all the time. It's something that they do, because remember, the university, beyond mental issues and the rest of them, we also have Office of Special Needs. The university is very careful about people with special needs. They provide them, go to their lab, they have all the up-to-date facilities there, and they assist them in lectures. You have people with vision problems, hearing problems, and people accompany them to lectures, and then they write notes for them, they assist them. The university, I must say, that has done well, and we are praying that we get more resources to expand the frontiers of the work that they do. I commend them for good work done.
Well, very well, Doc. Let's end with this story. We brought it to you yesterday, and it had to do with NEDCO. That's the Northern Electricity Company disconnecting power to the St. Anne's Hospital. And this led to the death of 2 babies. We understand that the OPD visits dropped drastically because their hospital was struggling to operate without power. Well, the news this morning is that power has been restored to the St. Anne's Hospital. And this is a story by Mohammed Fugu. And the debt owed is 4 million cedis. And yesterday when we brought that story, according to the hospital, this debt was supposed to be cleared by government. There was the first disconnection, an intervention, and then the second disconnection. Now we are told that this reconnection was due to an intervention by the MP for the area, Samuel Abujenapo, and the regional minister, Saeed Mahazu Jibril. We are told by the regional minister that the MP and the regional coordinating council will pay the debt on behalf of the hospital. Yesterday, Doc, I had Mr. Kojo Poku, who is an energy analyst, on the newspaper review, and he was very concerned about how we treat power and electricity in this country. He says that we must begin to look at it as a commodity that must be paid for, because of the moral connection of this story. This is a hospital. Why would you want to disconnect a hospital? It has led to the death of 2 babies. There's a lot of emotional attachments there. But for him, power is generated with money. It is a heavily invested sector, and so people must pay for the power. I don't know what you make of this and the intervention by the MP and regional minister.
Yes, I'll start with looking at the story from this angle. That is unfortunate that we have lost 2 lives. Even one is bad enough to lose. We don't need to lose anybody. Life is so precious. And so for it to get to this level, then it's really, really unfortunate. But the real issue is that we are talking about a state body and where budget has been allocated for payment of electricity. What has happened to it that it is not paid? That's the first question we must address our minds to. Is there any budget allocation for it? Why hasn't it been used? And if you listen to the story, they tell you that it starts from, I think, 2016 or so. They've defaulted payment up to today. And then the second question I want to pose is that those who are managing the facilities, all right, the facility there, it's unfortunate that they were offering that type of explanation, and the rest of them are adding emotional appeal and all that. Look, we have, bastardized ECG. We have talked ill about them, that they are incompetent and all that. Recent events have proved that we are rather undermining the work that they do. Why is it that you want to consume electricity, you don't want to pay? I don't get it. And that what is even more worrying is that the state has allocated amount to be paid, and what has happened to it that we are not paying. I don't get it. And those who are also leading the place there and handling the place, and it doesn't have, they denied us the opportunity to find out why is it that it has not been paid. They are not bothered about whether it is paid or not. And now that it's disconnected, quick, so mindful of the fact that the bills ought to be paid. They would have, gone on the ground and find out what has happened to it. They have been silent. All that they do is that they come and manage the place and they go, power will be there. Power will not be there. Now that they are crying, is it a good thing that they will consume power without paying? If everybody does so, do you think ECG will exist? I think that they must show some high level of responsibility by finding out. Even if it's a state that is paying, you want to find out whether the state has paid, whether it is not able to pay, and then you begin to what? Move to ECG, have a dialogue, have a conversation. Let's say they are listening to Mr. Kutuka and then the ECG people. Have you, engaged them? Engagement is key. If you are the one who is not paying, you have to engage them, explain your situation to them. Then they will understand. That knee-jerk attitude where when something happens like this, you see people trying to find resources and pay and all that. That is not to undermine what the minister has done. He has done his bit. But look, the real problem ought to be dealt with the CEO and the management of ECG. Because if we continue on this tangent, there will not be any ECG. And at the end of the day, this country will collapse. People must pay for the power that they use. I support that call. And ECG must go ahead to disconnect people who don't pay, because we cannot undermine the facility at all. You hear places like what? Police station doing illegal connection. You have institutions that people have paid for the service and yet it's not paid. How do you run a state like this? They remember that ECG is not a philanthropic organization and that they are doling out or they are giving power free of charge. It's not true. It's a serious business that we must attach seriousness to it. If we are not ready for payment of ECG services, let us find our own means of energy, so that we can save this national asset.
Thank you so much, Doc, for that. Doc is a political scientist and director of Center for European Studies at the University of Ghana, and he has been doing the newspaper review with me this morning. Well, up next is sports. When we come back after sports, we will be delving into the Kumawu by-elections the day after Tuesday.